So I have a question regarding fathers going to church. I have a wonderful husband. He's a great father, but he does not go to Mass. He will say grace at dinner, which I really appreciate. And I don't badger him to go to Mass, but every once in a while I'll casually invite him. But how do I do this? How do I get him to go to Mass?
If I could mention one thing, sometimes, first of all, it may be a problem with confession. Sometimes if you give a parish mission, I tell people, you know what, if you have not been to confession in 50 years, you only have 5 minutes in the confessional. It's 40 years, I'm only going to give you 4 minutes. 30 years, only 3 minutes, that's it. The reason is a person may not go to confession for 50 or maybe 60 years is because of one lousy, stupid sin that they committed when they were adolescents or they did something. They touched their cousin, they did this, they had sex with a chicken, I don't know, whatever. Some inane thing, and they're ashamed. And for men are they don't like being uncomfortable. This is what the Italiani, they don't want to go, they don't know when to stand, they don't want to sit, they don't know what to do. And so rather I'll avoid everything because I'm afraid of showing my weakness and so my ignorance and this and that, so I'm not going to get involved in this. Sometimes it comes down to 1 or 2 sins from many years ago. And that's what has to be dealt with. But I tell the person, even after you've committed the sin, I don't care if it was a murder. Do you know what your greatest sin is? Is for 50 years, Jesus was like this. For 50 years or 60 years, that's your sin. So confess your lousy, stupid little sin and receive the embrace of the Lord and come to church. I'll show you, because you haven't gone to church in many years. We'll go through it. We'll go to when to stand, when to sit. This, if you want to just sit in the back, that's fine. And you'll be able to receive Holy Communion. It may not be that situation with your husband, but it may be someone else here.
Let the kids lead them. If you got older kids, you can say to your husband first, they're asking why you don't go. And then you tell the kids, why do I have to go if Dad doesn't? Some 13-year-old. Why don't you ask Dad that? Why don't you ask it? And then when they say, well, why doesn't Dad go? You can say, God doesn't force anybody to go. I'm doing this for you because I think this is really important. I think your dad's got to come to that eventually. You got to decide whether this is real, no matter what Daddy decides.
And this doesn't help you specifically, but I think that men are called to be spiritual leaders in their home because it isn't natural for us. I believe there is for many men, they struggle with passivity in general. And when we aren't confident in an area, I'm good at work, I know what I'm doing there, but if I'm not good at spiritual stuff, I'm not going to step into that place. And I don't want to look like an incompetent failure that sometimes, again, not saying your husband, but many men struggle with that inadequacy or the imposter syndrome. And what helped me, I had a prayer life. I was going to church, but I wasn't really leading spiritually in the home. Alicia was doing it. It was more natural for her as a woman and just for who she was. She gave me space. She set the prayers up for Lent or Advent, made it easy for me to come home from work and slide in and lead, and it slowly became more comfortable for me. And then I really stepped into it more fully. Pro tip, nagging never gets anyone to lead spiritually in the home. Because ultimately that's for the good of your marriage, to keep praying for him, to love on him, to be a wife, to be like, wow, my wife loves Jesus and she's loving me like Jesus does. You are the greatest sacramental presence of God to your husband. When you come home from the Eucharist, receiving the Eucharist, be a tabernacle for him. Be as transparent. Work on your heart and your life. Let it shine so that it works as a healing balm that maybe brings him back to confession, that maybe opens up an opportunity. Right? We have all the great historical examples of women particularly who prayed for sons and husbands to come back to the faith. But you can do something that nobody else can. by being Jesus for your spouse and loving him only as a wife can. And that's something powerful. And don't underestimate that. Lean into the sacrament. It's not a sacrament because it's just frivolous. This is a life-saving grace. This is a spiritual, sacramental bond between the two of you that is powerful and can overcome this. So don't give up on him.